Y'all, I've been trying to find some Hennessy. I can't find none. I've been trying to find it for 2 weeks. Two weeks. I can't find none. I did like, hello? Listen, liquor stores are an essential service. I don't drink a lot. I really don't. Like, I have my little Mike's Hard Lemonade, whatever. I wanted a Hennessy Colada. I can't find no Hennessy. That's all I want. Anyway, what's next?
Live from Brooklyn, New York. Come on, whoa. You're listening to the Culture 316 podcast.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jay the Creative.
Y'all know who I am. I'm tired of telling y'all. Y'all know who I am.
And welcome to Season 2, Episode 22 of Culture 316. This is going to be our season finale. But while you're at it, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We want to shout out everybody who's been watching and listening for the entire season. Be sure to follow us anywhere podcasts can be streamed. Subscribe, and be sure to give us that good old 5-star rating. I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into our first trending wrestling topic. All right, so Patrick Clark Jr., better known as the Velveteen Dream, was accused of sending a minor extremely inappropriate pictures. The rumor was reported earlier today on Reddit, and the ages of the recipients of said picture were 15, 16, and 17, respectively. However, he actually posted something to his Twitter to kind of update us, and I'm going to read it. It says, "Be assured, I did not communicate inappropriately with anyone. A private photo of mine was shared without my consent or knowledge, and I am working with a third party to look into this matter." And this video is actually followed by, or this tweet is actually followed by a video of Bobby Shmurda dancing to the Velveteen Dream theme song, which is actually fantastic. I just wanted to get your opinions on it. Do you think that this report was accurate? And if so, what should WWE do about its fastest rising star in NXT?
Here's my thing, right? So, I'm not going to sit here and try to be a Twitter detective, which is what most people have been doing today. You know, everybody's been like, oh, well, if you look at this picture and you look at the upper right left-hand corner, you can see that the blue check mark isn't right, and it's a couple of centimeters to the left. It's just like, it's infuriating, and it's really tiring. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have an opinion on it yet. I don't have an opinion on it yet because, you know, there has been some substantial stuff that has come out, you know, but honestly, it could go either way. You know, I feel like, what does this person have to just randomly lie for? Like, one random person, like, I feel like nobody's gonna just come out and say something like that, and then they're like, okay, cool, well, he was hacked. I'm like, okay, cool, like that. I'm not saying that's not a possibility. You know, Instagrams get hacked every day. Like, it's a possibility. It is what it is,
right?
Listen, like, we had so many freaking scandals the last 4 years alone in the company, with the whole pictures getting leaked and Paige's videos that got leaked back in 2017, and Tony Storm's pictures got leaked, and everybody knows that Ricochet has a couple of videos out that got leaked, and what's the other one?
Charlotte got leaked.
I forgot about that. I forgot Charlotte's pictures got leaked. Charlotte's pictures got leaked. What's his name? Stereotypical white guy. Austin Theory.
He got his pictures leaked? I didn't know.
He got a video leaked. And I remember it because I stumbled across it by accident, because Twitter is a wild place. I was like, why? Just why, Lord? Why? Why me? Why did I have to be the person to come across this? Regardless of anything, right? So, I just feel like, listen, I don't have the time for the Twitter, for everybody to be all of a sudden as a Twitter detective. When it comes out, it'll come out. And I feel like, you know, the evidence is substantial enough as to where you can kind of look at it and go, I don't know, you know, like, it could be either way. So, as far as I'm concerned, you know, stuff like this happens to people all the time, but I feel like Velveteen, or Patrick, whatever you want to call her, feel like Patrick needs to just come out now and provide like real, like, this is what happened and this is how it happened, and bomb, place it on the table, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? It's just so that it proves his innocence.
Right.
You know, because this is something that can ruin him.
Right.
You know, like the whole scandal with James Ellsworth happened last year, where he, you know, apparently got, he was sending messages to an underage girl himself. Like,
I totally forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you totally forgot about it because James Ellsworth is gone. Like, who even, like, I haven't seen James Ellsworth. I even haven't heard his name mentioned in so long. So that's him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Once something like that happens, it is a wrap for you. And WWE has had enough bad publicity over the last 2 weeks. If this is true, then you need to just cut your losses and just keep it moving. You know, it sucks because he's in the middle of the biggest rivalry, and not only in his career, but in NXT. Like, that's the centerpiece rivalry right now, is Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream. And listen, you're going to have your people that are going to stick by him and going to believe him, and he didn't do it, no matter how much proof comes out, whatever. There was a video that came out of the conversation of the, basically it was like audio of him talking to the person in question, the victim. So, you know, I mean, it sounds very much like Velveteen Dream, unless he has a twin brother who sounds just like him. But it sounds very much like him. Now, listen, stuff can be doctored and edited and all types of stuff, so I am not going to have an official opinion on him as a person.
Right.
Until it is proven, until he's proven guilty or proven innocent. He's just going to be riding that line for a minute. For me.
I agree with what you're saying. I feel like there's definitely more that needs to come out before an official opinion is created. I don't like the whole Twitter figuring things out. It's counterproductive. Twitter and its users are not certified investigators. Therefore, they should stop trying to be them. If Velveteen says that...
And the thing is, hold on, before you keep going, sorry to interrupt you, but like the thing is, nobody's saying that, like, you know, you can't think that it's, like, you know, suspicious, and you can't, like, you know, go through all the different possibilities in your head. Like, nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that you can't have an opinion on it. Nobody's saying that you can't, like, look into it and go, like, oh, well, maybe, I don't know, I don't really believe it. That's your opinion. But the thing is, don't be that guy who's just being, you know... I don't believe it. No, this, that, and the fourth. And I'm looking and, you know, it looks like the blue check mark is too far to the right and the font doesn't look the same. Listen, apps update all the time.
Right.
So, you know, we just don't know. So it's okay to speculate, but let's not pretend like we know. Anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think the only point I was just going to make was that I feel like it's too early to kind of talk about stuff like this. I mean, we just found out, but we don't really know what happened. Right. Granted, I feel like more should be detected before an opinion is officially formed, at least on my end. But yeah, like if Velveteen says that he was hacked, I'm going to take his word if, you know, that he was hacked. Never heard anything inappropriate come out of Velveteen ever, whether that be backstage or stuff that he did for TV. Guy seems to carry himself like a professional, but I mean, like if he did it, you know, he should be dealt with accordingly. But once again, that's something that's left to be seen. But what I will say, hold on, give me 1 second. Let me, all right, I'm good. But what I am going to say is that, I think just more needs to be said. I mean, more needs to be found out before, you know, anything goes any further. So we want to hear you guys' opinion on this issue. Be sure to comment below. Tell us how you feel.
Before you move on, I just also want to say, listen, there have been a lot of different situations where, you know, somebody has fabricated a story. Somebody has said things like really derogatory. And, you know, it came out that it was all a lie. And listen, those people do not deserve... You know, those people truly are people that deserve jail time. People who, you know, fabricate certain things to get certain people put away, stuff like that. But my thing is this: there is no way that this young fan is going to make something like this up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
so if he was hacked, then he was hacked. But I personally do not think that this fan who is who is 17 years old, so is 100% underage, I don't think that this 17-year-old is going to make up something like that.
Right.
You know, so let's not blame the victim.
Right.
You know, victim blaming has become incredibly popular over the last couple of years because people just don't want to believe something happened because that was their
person, right?
Or their best friend or their favorite athlete. And they go to blame the victim. Oh, well, you wanted it. You wanted this. You wanted that. Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. If it's true that he was the one who sent those photos, she did not deserve to go through that.
Right.
That is absolutely, or she or he, because I don't even remember if it was a man or a male or a female that went through that specific situation. But as far as I'm concerned, no one should be blaming the victim,
right?
Unless it's wrong, unless like we absolutely find out that it's some bullshit, but
right?
If we figure out that it's real, that's it.
That's it. But we definitely want to hear everybody's opinion on this. Be sure to comment below and tell us how you feel. All right. So this past week, Vince McMahon hosted his quarterly investor conference call. And on the call, he stated that WWE would not be in the live event business as much as it was before. And they looked to create more cinematic style matches that were similar to the ones that we saw at WrestleMania, like the Firefly Funhouse with John Cena and Bray Wyatt, as well as the Boneyard match with AJ Styles and The Undertaker. But I just wanted to ask you, do you think that this shift in WWE's business model was inevitable, or this is coming by surprise?
This is as far as the cinematic matches, right?
Well, cinematic matches as well as the live event stuff.
Well, listen, like we're in a pandemic, you know, like as far as live events go. Apparently, the Observer said that live events were losing money. Now, listen, I don't pay attention to financials,
right?
WWE's financials, like I don't, it's none of my business. But I think they said the live events were losing money,
right?
So it's just like, you know, it's better to kind of go in and just, you know, and also too, you know, the live events, how they used to be done, you know, these guys would really run. I remember the Raw guys used to run Friday to Monday. And then they would fly home Tuesday, be home Wednesday, and then fly back out Thursday to be at the house show for Friday.
Right.
You know, and then the SmackDown guys, I think, did Saturday to Tuesday, back when SmackDown was Fridays. And now I think they all are on the same house. I think the house show schedule is a lot different than it used to be. But back when it was the two brands for those 2 years, and even back in 2000, even back when it wasn't, you know, the two brands, even back when it was SmackDown was shooting on Thursdays, shooting on
Tuesdays.
My God, Tuesdays for Thursdays. Literally, they would be working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like 5 days a row, you know, flying home and then just flying right back, you know? So it's a lot. You know, it's really taxing for the
talent.
The talent, right. It's really taxing for the talent. I just feel like it's just, as far as I'm concerned, I really, really, really think that cutting back on house shows, just for the talent safety, you know, would be better. I think it would cut back on a lot of injuries. You know, we're thankful to have a lot of people who haven't gotten injured ever in their careers. But, you know, you never know. Like tomorrow, somebody could step the wrong way and next thing you know, it's a wrap, you know?
Right.
So, as far as I'm concerned, I think that the live event thing, it makes sense. Like it, you know, cutting it back, you know, especially, you know, people aren't really going to be looking to go out that much, at least not until there's a vaccination, you know, and in February and March, a vaccination was 12 to 18 months away, you know, from a widespread whatever.
Right.
So, you know, that right there puts us in September of 2021. So that's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot of time, you know? So I feel like if we get to the point where, okay, people are like, okay, cool, like you guys can start doing like smaller venues, but you can't do the big arenas yet. You can have, up to like 500,000, 2,000 people in your arena. I mean, then that's what they do,
Right.
As far as the cinematic matches go, they have to be very careful. And I think that this is something that WWE has made the mistake with a few times, is oversaturating something, oversaturating a market.
Right.
WWE has a lot of content. So right there with the WWE network, and I'm not saying that that's oversaturating the market necessarily, but like that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff to watch. And I feel like with this quarantine, I finished all of the WWE network, but whatever. That's a lot of stuff. As far as like, just like certain types of matches, I remember when Vince back during the summer, apparently it was this thing where Vince didn't like commercial breaks anymore. So he was doing all these fatal 4-way elimination matches, and then they were taking breaks during the commercial. Like, he didn't want wrestling during commercial breaks. He was taking breaks during the commercial. The matches were taking breaks during the commercials. And it was literally like every Monday night, there was a fatal 4-way elimination match. Or it was a 2 out of 3 falls match. That's what it was. 2 out of 3 falls. It seemed like every Monday night it was a 2 out of 3 falls match. And it was just a lot. And it wasn't like, it became like oversaturation. So you had these three cinematic style matches. You had, my gosh, the Boneyard match. You had the Funhouse match, which I can't even really call that a match anymore because that was just a lot. But you had the Boneyard match, the Funhouse match, and then you had the Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Gargano, which was shot very cinematically. So I just feel like the Money in the Bank concept, while it's super dope, let's not oversaturate this. Let's not do it too much. Like, let's try to keep them as special as possible. But, even like when it comes to the pay-per-views now, we have Hell in a Cell, the pay-per-view, and, we have we have at least 3 Hell in a Cell matches, and we have, 2 Royal Rumble, and it's just a lot. I just feel like the market, it just becomes a lot. So I just don't want them to just do too much of it.
Right. So I like to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying as it pertains to like the live events. Even before COVID-19 was a thing, we saw live event attendance decrease drastically, at least domestically. I don't know why. I know why. I just feel like WWE is not the spectacle that it once was during the Ruthless Aggression era. They don't have the John Cenas. They don't have the 2004, 2005 Randy Orton. They don't have, the Dead Man in The Undertaker. WWE doesn't have the star power that it used to have, and because of that, they don't draw the live event attendance the way that they used to have. So, but I do feel like Corona definitely played a part as far as kind of stuffing and snuffing it out once and for all, because it just kind of put a lot of things into perspective when you release a good amount of your talent, and then on top of that, you just like it. You're not making as much money as you used to with the live events, and on top of that, in wrestling, there's a lot of shifting in the business model of wrestling. Like, for example, I was listening to Tony Khan on the AEW Unrestricted or Unrestricted podcast or something like that. He was just talking about how the wrestling business has changed so much because it used to be that everything would lead up and build up towards the pay-per-view. Everything was meant to build up towards the pay-per-view because ideally the most money was in the pay-per-view. It was the live events, like you had like the TV, and then you had live events, and then you had the pay-per-view. So everything kind of built up to that. But now, because of how advanced television is and how accessible it is, and the fact that it's multi-platform, and the fact that some television networks extend beyond the actual station, their social media, and all these other things, that the most money for wrestling is in television. So now I feel like them putting out the live event aspect kind of gives them an opportunity to beef up their television product and kind of ease the work schedule a lot for the wrestlers. Now, as it pertains to the cinematic matches, to kind of go off of what you're saying, you don't want to oversaturate. You know, the Boneyard match was great. The Firefly Funhouse was very, very unique. And you just have to keep that in mind when you're creating content, is that you don't want to try to do magical things too many times, because then it'll get boring and it'll get like unoriginal, and then it'll just get really, really corny. So I think that WWE has to walk this fine line of being efficient but not being repetitive. So that's going to be kind of like their struggle going forward. But yeah, I'm very, very intrigued to see how this ends up as it pertains to just like the live event space, and if that affects how they use their talent, because now they're snuffing out live events. I wonder if they're going to focus more on their digital content or their podcast as another big source of revenue, especially since the podcast thing just got started with Corey Graves and After the Bell. But we're going to see. Did you have any other additional thoughts, bro?
About
the live events, cinematic matches, all that? No? So,
no.
We want you guys to comment. Let us know how you feel about WWE snuffing out these live events in response to the coronavirus, as well as their initiative to do more cinematic style matches. Now, we did mention podcasts through WWE, and speaking of which, on the After the Bell podcast by Corey Graves, he was able to sat down with Triple H while he was talking to him about his 25 years in the WWE, and they kind of discussed the WrestleMania extravaganza of this past year, and if it means that WrestleMania can possibly be a 2-night spectacle going forward. Triple H said that he would love it to be a 2-night spectacle. He said that he famously put it that it's a concert that is turned into a festival, because you have the Hall of Fame was supposed to be Thursday night, then you have SmackDown Friday night, then on Saturday night you have TakeOver, and then on Sunday you have WrestleMania. So it's become it has evolved from this one event, this one concert, to an entire week of festivities. And I feel like if you're kind of going in that direction, it kind of makes sense to draw it out 2 nights. But I definitely wanted your opinion. How do you feel about the possibility of WrestleMania going forward being a 2-night thing as opposed to a 1-night thing?
It should not. My issue with them turning it into a 2-night thing, like, here's my thing, right? The way WrestleMania weekend works now is very, very, it's structured very well. You have, hold on, sorry. So on Thursdays you have the Hall of Fame. On Fridays you have SmackDown. On Saturdays you have TakeOver. And then Sunday you have WrestleMania. Monday is Raw. That is how WrestleMania weekend was going to be structured before the Rona. Now we have this weird thing where we had a 2-night WrestleMania because there were so many freaking matches this year. Right. So then now if you decide that you're going to go with a 2-night WrestleMania, now the structure kind of has to change, because then what happens to TakeOver that usually the night before? You could do what they used to do and air TakeOver in place of NXT on the network. So instead of having a go home NXT and then that Saturday doing TakeOver, you just have Wednesday be NXT TakeOver. But then it's just like, okay, well, do you air TakeOver on the network? Do you air TakeOver on USA? Which I feel like airing TakeOver on USA would be wild. Like, I think it would be great. Great exposure. I think, they make bread from TakeOvers, because most people go to TakeOver and, WrestleMania, or they'll go to TakeOver, maybe skip WrestleMania, go to Raw. TakeOvers usually sell out.
Right.
Completely sell out. So I think personally, if you decided to do a 2-night WrestleMania and you move TakeOver to Wednesday, logistically it could work. But then here's where the issue lies. Saturday and Sunday, do you realistically think that you're going to get 60,000 people, 70,000 people in an arena 2 nights in a row? Or do you think that night 1, you'll get 30,000 people, and night 2, you'll get 10,000 people? it's a stadium. WrestleMania is in a stadium. It's not exactly like you can, I mean, you could always use shots from the night before, but, people can tell, people will know. People will know how authentic it is and if it's not authentic or not. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
My thing is, it's a cute idea. It was a great idea for the circumstance of 2020.
Right.
But in 2021, if we do get WrestleMania in Los Angeles, it can't. Like, 2 nights, it doesn't make sense logistically. And, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense logistically. Like, you have your whole weekend planned in a certain way. And then what happens if you have an access during night 1 of WrestleMania? Because the access usually stops
on the
Sunday
day of
morning.
Mania. Yeah.
Right, Sunday morning. And then they'll do another access Monday morning, like before Raw. And then, of course, right after Raw, now access is done.
Right.
But the point is, you have to logistically figure out, like, it just won't work. It literally will not work. And I'm not doing that. I'm not going to 2 stadiums.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, it's weird because I feel like the 2-night WrestleMania provided wrestling fans with a more consumable piece of content. It's easier to consume 2 3-hour shows as opposed to 1 6-hour show. So I think that from a consumer standpoint of somebody that's maybe watching from home, 2 nights may be better. But from the consumer standpoint of, I am a participant in WrestleMania week, it may not be the best idea to have a 2-night WrestleMania because the numbers may be inconsistent. And granted, they may do something like put 1 main event on one night, 1 main event on another night, the way that they kind of did it for WrestleMania 36. But once again, that's very, very tricky because there are some people that are more popular than others. So if you put a Brock Lesnar on one night and you put somebody else on the second night, you're going to get varying results. But I feel like if they are going to do it, it should be a very, very interesting transition. You could do something along the lines of like pushing everything back a day so that they start on Wednesday. But once again, it's so well structured now that it's hard for you to kind of move things around to create a 2-night WrestleMania. And the popular argument is, well, they did it for Wrestle Kingdom, they could do it for WrestleMania. But the Wrestle Kingdom audience and the WrestleMania audience are 2 totally different audiences. Because Wrestle Kingdom is dedicated and geared towards Japanese wrestling fans and die-hard international wrestling fans. A die-hard American wrestling fan isn't going to mind going to 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. But 12-year-old Johnny who lives in the LA area, whose father can only afford 1 ticket to 1 show, may not be able to do 2 nights. You know what I mean? So Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania they are both wrestling events, but they cater to 2 different wrestling audiences. WrestleMania caters to the majority, and Wrestle Kingdom tends to cater to a niche. And when you cater to a niche, you have a lot more flexibility in what you do because the people that are riding with you are diehards. But for WWE, a lot of the people that are watching it are casual fans.
Bro, not only that, but can you imagine for 2 nights in a row trying to get out of a stadium to get back to your hotel room?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Like, getting out of an arena is easy. Barclays Center, as much as I love Brooklyn, as much as I love being from Brooklyn, as much as I love how convenient Barclays Center it is, even still, now that I've moved to a different part of Brooklyn, because even still, I could just take the train straight there.
Right.
Barclays Center is easy to get to. It is central Brooklyn. I'm sorry. I need to move this off my TV. Okay, it's gone. Sorry. Barclays Center has one of the worst designed concourses ever. While the concourse is like wide, it's pretty wide. It's just like, you can fit 15,000 people in Barclays Center. By the time you're done in Barclays Center and everybody's trying to leave, them thin-ass staircases. Like, everybody's just trying to get out. There's like 3 elevators. almost all of them never work or they're almost always full.
Right.
You know, I feel like getting out of Madison Square Garden for Raw or even G1 Supercard last year was easier than getting out of Barclays for SmackDown last year.
Yeah.
So, like, Barclays Center, I love Barclays Center. I love how convenient Barclays Center is. I absolutely hate the concourse. Now, listen, I have said what I've had to say about New Jersey Transit 1,000 times. Last year was a hot-ass mess. I absolutely hated it. It was the worst. But imagine doing that 2 nights in a row. I'm not going. I'm not going. Like, you know, if they decide to run MetLife Stadium again and decide, yeah, that's going to be the night we do a 2-night WrestleMania, I'm not going.
Not going. Yeah, I feel like that's another...
Well, I'm going to still go. I'm just going to pretend like I'm not going.
I just feel like that's another key part when we're talking about WrestleMania and just the WrestleMania experience is the location, not just in which city that it is, but where in the city it's located. Because if you're placing it in a place where it's hard to get to, then a lot more people aren't going to be as willing to go because of its convenience or the lack thereof. But did you have anything that you wanted to add to that, or are you good to go?
I'm sorry?
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not necessarily. I just, like I said, I just think logistically, it's not. It just shouldn't happen. You know, listen, WWE, Vince, Triple H, Kevin and Dunn, you know, all the execs, they'll make those decisions. But, you know, I just feel like personally, you know, while it looks like they may make more money, I think that they'd make less money doing a 2-night WrestleMania. But I also feel like something good to come out of it would be, like I said, if they air TakeOver on the USA Network.
Right.
That is a surefire way to get, even though then it sucks because then it's like commercials, you know, and you can't really do a commercial break during like, you know, big matches like that, or during big shows like that, but still, like I feel like it's a great opportunity for exposure.
Definitely, but we want to hear everybody else's opinions on this. If you feel that WrestleMania should be a 2-day experience, or if it shouldn't be sure to comment below and tell us how you feel.
So there's been a lot of speculation ever since WWE 2K20 released and got universally bad reception. That game still gives me issues to this day, but it's the only wrestling game that is like out that has updated like rosters and stuff.
Right.
So I'm just like, and updated entrances and all that. So I'm just like, I might as well just use it. My issue, though, is it's just like it, whatever. Long story short, there's been a lot of speculation all the way back to October when the game first released is whether or not we were going to get a 2K21 because this is a yearly, you know, it's one of those yearly games. We get them every year, blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
Then once the corona happened, speculation ramped up again that we will not be getting a WWE 2K21 this year, and it actually came out during the investors call, I believe, that WWE 2K21 will not be a game released this year. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with WWE 2K22. I don't know if like we're just not getting 2K21, but we'll get 2K22 next year. But I mean, listen, I'm a very big gamer, and these yearly sports titles have been some of the most problematic games that I know. It's just, you know, 2K, they are a universally panned kind of company when it comes to just some of their practices. You know, I don't play basketball. I don't play NBA 2K, but I've heard a lot of really bad things about NBA 2K20. And then to get WWE 2K20 in the state that we did, absolutely terrible and horrible and trash. And then to not only get that, but then, you know, we find out we're not getting 2K21. I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for them to build a new engine, get new face skins, do things that fans have been asking for the last 7 years of WWE games. You know, people say the last great WWE game was in 2013. That's a long time ago. That was 7 years ago.
Right.
Like, we are in, you know, and it looked like they were going somewhere. You know, it looked like Ukes was really, Ukes was going somewhere. 2K18, a lot of people say, was the last good 2K wrestling game.
Right.
Even though 2K19 is still actually pretty fine. Like, if I was to open 2K19 right now, put it in the thing, like, I'd have less issues with 2K19 than I would with
2K20.
This game, with 2K20. But my issue is just, you know, like I said, these sports games are very problematic. EA with Madden, you know, that's another yearly game. You know, I've never necessarily heard anything bad about Madden, but I've heard a lot of bad things about EA. You know, so it gives them time to take a year off, build a new engine, get better facial scans, because I don't know why they called Maven back to be a face stand-in for The Rock, but absolutely not. It was so, those facial scans were so bad. Like, Bayley didn't even look like Bayley. Becky Lynch didn't even look that much like Becky. Like, it was just really bad. Anyway, I want a good wrestling game. And, you know, I would like for 2K to finally listen to the people who are buying these games. 2K20 was the lowest selling WWE game. 2K20 was also the worst received WWE game of all time. So it's just like, how many more things do we have to do to get you guys to understand that we just want a good wrestling game? We want a good wrestling game that you can blend. You can do the simulation style, which I really like, but you can also do the arcadey style wrestling. You can have a selection.
Right.
One person wants to do that. One person wants to do that. You know, to me, I just feel like there's so much that the fans have been asking for, and these last few years have just been kind of incremental BS upgrades just to keep people like, oh, okay, well, they're doing something. They're not doing anything.
Right.
And I feel like now, more than ever, we need to push 2K to give us what we want.
Right.
And if they don't give us what we want, 2 years from the release of WWE 2K20, you have more than enough time to work on that. Right. And listen, I know, like I said, I'm a big gamer. Games take a very long time. Spider-Man PS4 came out in 2018. It was announced in 2016. They had been working on the game since 2015. That game took 3 years to make.
Right.
Uncharted 4, one of my favorite video games of all time. That game took 5 years to make. That game did not come out for another 5 years after its sequel came out. You know? So something needs to happen. And listen, the game process is not an easy process. I envy the person who has to, you know, and I'm sure that person loves it, you know, and I'm not saying that the person doesn't love it, but I envy the person who absolutely has to, like, you know, fix all the little minor BS in the games and the bugs, and I envy that person. Like, I don't want that person's job. You know, that right. Sounds really difficult, but I'm sure that person loves their job to death.
Right.
But something needs to happen, and something needs to happen fast. And if WWE 2K22 is horrible, then expect after that, if that game gets bad reception, I'm telling you right now, WWE is going to sell the rights for their video games to somebody else.
Right.
They're probably going to sell it to EA or something else, and we will get a brand new WWE game in 2023.
I really don't have any thoughts on that, so if y'all have something to say about that, be sure to comment below and tell us how you feel about the WWE 2K series. All right, and now it's time for our main event. This week, the WWE is celebrating the storied 25-year career of Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H, debuting in 1995 under the Blue Blood gimmick. Triple H has done it all. From inside the ring to outside the ring, he's a 14-time World Heavyweight Champion, a 2-time Royal Rumble winner, and has gone on to create some of the most legendary memories and moments and factions in the history of professional wrestling. He's responsible for molding some of the industry's biggest and brightest talents, such as Randy Orton, Batista, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, and so much more. Out of all the legendary moments that Triple H has had, Give me 2 or 3 of some of the craziest moments Triple H has ever created or been involved in.
In my opinion.
In your opinion.
So y'all already know, 2008 was when I started watching wrestling. So if I'm pulling it from my childhood, I'd say the top moment would be the build to his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25, or the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, rather. That was huge. Like, I just remember watching in my basement, and I was with my brother, because he was a wrestling fan too at the time. And I just remember kind of watching him go into Randy Orton's house.
Oh, yeah.
And beat the hell out of him. And that, to me, was, like, the craziest thing. Because I'm just like, oh, my God, he went in his house. And he threw him out the window. Blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, okay? That was wild to me, you know? So that was pretty great. I loved his... So I knew of DX from their 2006, whatever. Like, I knew of them. But I never got to watch a DX, like, actually in matches until their 2009 rebirth. So that reunion, I remember that reunion very fondly. I remember their matches with, like, Legacy, and I remember their like matches for the tag team championships. I think they had a match against, I think it was SummerSlam 2009. I think it was them versus Big Show and Chris Jericho for the tag titles. I remember that very fondly. And then, of course, you know, Papa Hunter. I mean, he is, or as Sasha Banks calls him, Hunter. He's very, now, you know, as pretty much the brainchild, the creator, the head of NXT, he has created some of the most incredible moments in WWE history. He has helped create. He has given an avenue to a lot of wrestlers who may not have made it on the main roster, or may not have kind of, you know, if the developmental system was still how it used to be, you know, the FCW, and then, you know, doing dark shows, and then kind of just moving up to the main roster, it might have been a lot different for these wrestlers. So it's really cool, you know. Listen, I see a lot of these things where it's like, pick one wrestler that never existed. People are like, Hunter can go. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Are you serious? Yeah.
If Hunter can go, that means we don't get NXT, you know, and maybe we do get NXT in some form or fashion, but we don't get the NXT that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't get Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa at NXT TakeOver New Orleans. We don't get Sasha Banks versus Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Or maybe we do, maybe we don't. But we definitely don't get Seth Rollins as the first ever NXT champion. We don't get Sami Zayn's fantastic NXT championship chase. We don't get Kevin Owens. We don't get Undisputed Era.
Right.
You know, we don't get Undisputed Era in the way that it is now. You know, we don't get some of these fantastic, not even some of these, we don't even get the fantastic takeovers. Like, there hasn't been one bad takeover show
ever.
You know, ever. We don't get, you know, stuff like that if there's no Triple H.
That's a fact.
So those are definitely some of my favorite things from him. I don't remember the first time I ever got to see him wrestle live. No, actually, was he wrestling on that show? Let me see, because I don't think he was wrestling at that time.
What show?
It was a November. I'm literally looking this up right now. November 2010 Raw, Long Island. I don't remember if he was on that card. Or it was November 1st? Okay, November 1st, 2010. Wow. It was a long time ago. He did not wrestle on the show. So my actual first time seeing him wrestle in person was at WrestleMania 33 in his match against Seth Rollins. So that was my first time experiencing a Triple H WrestleMania entrance.
Right.
That was my first time experiencing kind of the extravaganza that is Triple H at WrestleMania. So, you know, Triple H at WrestleMania is one of my personal dream matches. Triple H is, you know, just He's great. I have so much love for Triple H as a wrestler, as a competitor, as just, the brainchild behind NXT. So, honestly, hats off to 25 years for him. It's super cool.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, like 25 years is it's definitely a big feat. As far as the moments that stuck out to me, I would say the first one has to be January of 2002. He was returning from his torn Achilles injury. I think it was a torn Achilles, or I think he tore both his quads.
Oh yes, that pop.
And he had probably the best return pop of all time of any superstar ever in the history of WWE. And it was at the Garden of all places. And from that return, he won the 2002 Royal Rumble and ended up winning the WWE Undisputed Championship from Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18. That whole run was just phenomenal. And like that whole year for him was great because not only did he come back to a great pop in the Garden, not only did he win the Rumble, not only was he an undisputed champion at WrestleMania 18, but that also transitioned him into his feud with Shawn Michaels that would last for a couple years. It also led him to being the first person to be the carrier of the World Heavyweight Championship that was then refreshed and brought back to mainstream television by Eric Bischoff. So 2002 was a great year for him, and it kind of all started with that crowd pop. One of my probably another favorite moment, and my second favorite moment, was the reformation of DX in 2006. It was the Spirit Squad. Vince McMahon kind of had it against Triple H because him and Shawn Michaels were having a feud, and he asked Triple H to just destroy him with a sledgehammer. Hunter wouldn't do it. Shawn was injured, and Hunter had a match against all 5 members of the Spirit Squad, and Shawn came back, threw Mitch out of the entranceway, super kicked him, ran down to the ring, and just beat everybody up, and then DX was reformed. And that was just like another standout moment because that was just something that you would have never thought you would have seen. Ever since Shawn got injured in 98 and left, you never thought that you would see kind of DX on the same page again as Hunter and Shawn being active competitors. But like the way that place exploded was just fantastic. And that 2006 DX run was probably one of my favorite things to watch in WWE as a child. So those are my 2 favorite moments. But I'm going to segue that. Speaking of D-Generation X, Hunter was very known for being the head of some of wrestling's biggest factions, and this includes the Corporate Ministry, Evolution, right, D-Generation X, Two-Man Power Trip, and The Authority. Can you tell me what was the best faction Hunter was ever involved in?
Evolution.
Evolution. Why? Explain.
So, DX, while I love DX is my favorite tag team of all time. They are the perfect blend of comedy mixed with like real storytelling and wrestling. And Shawn and Hunter are best friends.
Right.
So, that's going to be that. But I say Evolution because these were 3 guys plus Ric Flair, which was already a made person. He was already a Hall of Famer at that point. There were not really a Hall of Famer for those of y'all who are going to be like, well, he wasn't a Hall of Famer until 2008. No, he was like, I'm saying he already had a Hall of Fame career at that point. You have guys like Randy Orton and Batista, who were brand new guys. They came in, and that faction made them guys. That right. Faction made them stars. I loved Evolution's 2014 run because, of course, I didn't get to watch Evolution's 2004 2005 run because I was not watching wrestling. So their run, those 2 or 3 matches against the Shield were great. Right. I love the elimination match because it was just so brutal. Like, they're literally beating the out of each. Like, they really beat up Roman for like 20 minutes.
Right.
Like, with freaking kendo sticks. With a Singapore cane. They beat him up. But my point is, I think Evolution, it just like, that was a faction that, what's the word I'm looking for? Elevated. That was a faction that elevated Randy and
Batista.
Now listen, everybody, people have an issue. Randy, he was a world champion, and then Thingy won it from him. What was it, like a month later?
Yeah, Hunter won it from him.
Yeah, whatever. It sucked, but now look at Randy. Randy is, a made guy. Randy is probably the only person who can shit talk WWE and not get fired.
Right.
He can literally say whatever he wants and not get fired. So I think, Randy is a made guy. Like, Randy is going to be a made guy for the rest of his life. Batista, who had his last match against Triple H last year and finally retired from professional wrestling, Batista is another one. Batista was so hot in 2005.
Whew,
he was so hot. Like, and even still, like, when Batista comes back, people loved him. People loved Batista. Maybe not in 2014 when everyone wanted Daniel Bryan to be the guy. But the people love Batista.
Right.
So, and listen, I adore Batista. I just, I adore Drax. He's great. But that's why I think that Evolution was the best one. Because Evolution was two made guys who had rivalries with the best people in wrestling in their respective eras, who were elevating two guys who were brand new, not necessarily brand new to the business, but two guys who were brand new to, this particular aspect of the business. And listen, Batista got over huge. Randy Orton, people have this love-hate relationship with Randy Orton. You cannot deny that Randy is one of the best people in that company as far as making somebody look like a star. So yeah, I mean, listen, because of that faction, years from now, when Randy Orton is celebrating his 25th year in the business, we can have conversations like, Randy Orton, this is how this happened and whatever. Listen, y'all know how I feel.
Right.
That's what
I personally believe that, well, at least I'm not going to say what the best faction was because best is subjective. My favorite faction that Triple H was a part of was D-Generation X. Reason being, I loved Evolution as a faction, but the reason why Evolution was so important as a faction was because of what Triple H accomplished during his DX years. And you look at the fact that Triple H, within the span of 2 years, as a part of D-Generation X, grew from being the undercard to being the top guy in the business. So we start in 97. We start in August where he was the associate of Shawn Michaels, who at the time was the best in-ring performer in wrestling, period. Can go bell to bell with anybody, make anyone look like a star, told the best stories in the ring. He was the guy that founded DX with him, along with Chyna and Rick Rude. Then Shawn gets injured. Triple H emerges as the new leader of D-Generation X. He recruits X-Pac, who was returning from WCW. He brings on the New Age Outlaws, makes them stars of the tag team division at the time, especially at a time where the WWE did not have the best tag team division. New Age Outlaws became the stars of that division. But as Triple H emerged as the leader, who was his rival and his competition? The Rock. Because The Rock was the leader of the Nation of Domination. And through that faction war, we see the emergence of probably one of the best rivalries in the history of WWE in The Rock versus Triple H. Then we see Hunter go from being a part of the undercard and being a degenerate and being funny to being a serious leader and a proud mid-card guy who was a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion, who was great on the mic, great in the ring, told great stories. Then a year down the line, we see him win his first WWE Championship, and we see him with DX form an alliance with Vince McMahon, Stephanie, and Shane. and we see DX evolve once again. I also believe that DX is definitely one of the most influential factions. I feel like between like what DX has done, you can see a little bit of them in the Bullet Club. You can see a little bit of them in the Undisputed Era. You can see a little bit of them in the Kingdom. I feel like DX's fingerprints are everywhere in wrestling. I feel like as a faction, they've had a factional influence, whereas Evolution produced stars. But that's the reason why I would consider them as my favorite faction. But I want to know what you guys' favorite faction that Triple H was a part of, so be sure to comment below. All right, so after a long in-ring career, Triple H transitioned into an executive role where he is most known for his involvement in NXT. The brand has gone on to produce some of the brightest stars in WWE, such as Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and the list goes on. I just want to know, number one, which of these NXT talents reminds you the most of Triple H? One. And two, if Triple H were to have a match against anyone in NXT right now, who would it be?
So is it an NXT talent that's in NXT right now?
Correct.
Or NXT that was... No, I'm as far as the first question.
Any NXT talent.
Anybody that came from NXT.
Anybody that came from NXT.
Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins? Why?
Seth Rollins. I don't know. He's always given me kind of like a young Hunter vibe. I think that I don't know. I like Seth a lot. Regardless of his little whatever he said last year. I still really like him as a wrestler.
Right.
I just think that he just shouldn't speak sometimes. But I mean, listen, it's his prerogative. If he wants to say what he wants to say, that's his business. Like I can't stop him from talking.
Right.
I just think that he just shouldn't speak sometimes.
Right.
But as far as why, I don't know. I just always have gotten a Hunter vibe from Seth Rollins. I just have always thought that Seth has given me very much of a younger the game. I mean, that's why they had the authority pretty much revolve around Seth Rollins.
Right.
They were building Seth to pretty much seem like he would be the next Hunter anyway.
Yeah.
So it just like even from there, it always kind of gave me young Triple H vibes. The hair, I mean, even though it's not blonde or brown,
right? Still,
the hair gives me young Triple H vibes. And if he was to have a match against anyone on the NXT card now, who would I want to see? I mean, honestly, he could have really good matches against a lot of them. It just depends on the match type. Because, listen, like I said, I love Triple H. Triple H is my childhood. Like, he was the perennial good guy of my childhood. Like, I don't think Triple H was ever heel.
What?
Hold on. You gotta let me finish before you lose your mind. I don't think he was ever heel between that 2009 to 2012 period. I think he was a babyface that entire time. So for me, being somebody, again, who started watching very late in his career, he was that perennial babyface for me from 2009 to 2012. Like, he was the babyface. Like, right. I always loved Triple H.
Right.
Now, I know he was heel prior. Listen, I know about the Reign of Terror and the Authority, of course. Like, the Authority was, like, him for the last 5 years. Like, I'm sure if him and Stephanie came back to TV tomorrow, they'd be the Authority. So, as far as I'm concerned, right now on NXT, there's so many people I'd love to see. It just has to be a certain type of match. Like, last year, the match against Batista was long. And then the match against Seth Rollins was also long. I think the last really good match he had at WrestleMania was that match with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
I think that it has to be a really, really, like, anybody in NXT would be great. I, for one, would love to see a Triple H Finn Balor match, or even a Triple H Adam Cole match would be pretty good. Barring anything, of course, barring if the whole situation is real or not, I think Triple H versus Velveteen Dream would be a very interesting rivalry.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just like a 4-week thing leading into WrestleMania. I think that would be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, any one of those guys, and it would have to be like no holds barred, but like it has to be with somebody who can keep it quick and fast paced, and
Right.
keep the energy
High.
level high, so that it doesn't seem like it's getting boring or things are getting drowned out.
Right. As far as the NXT person that Hunter the NXT person, character, wrestler, superstar that reminds me the most of Triple H, hands down Tommaso Ciampa. The reason why, specifically first of all, his rivalry with Gargano is very reminiscent of him and of Shawn and Hunter. That's number one. Number two, Ciampa's role or run with Goldie was very, very reminiscent of Hunter's 2002 to 2004 reign as the World Heavyweight Champion. Very, very possessed and obsessed with the title. Would do anything to keep it. Heel, bad guy, very dark rock music is his entrance. Ciampa reminds me a lot of Triple H. As far as a match, I would love to see him versus Adam Cole. I think that would be a dream match. I think that Velveteen would be another dream match. As far as like, even if it was Johnny, I could see Hunter and Johnny go at it. It'll be very, very interesting to see. I would love to see, and this is just a wild card, I would love to see Triple H versus Bray Wyatt. I think that would be very, very interesting. But I was going to ask, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Triple H versus Tommaso Ciampa would actually be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
With Tommaso Ciampa being the heel, Triple H being the babyface. That would be a pretty interesting match. I also think it'd be really slow. But, you know, I think that would be a pretty interesting match. Like I said, you know, Triple H is one of my dream matches. I really don't have that much time. Because who knows how long. Triple H is what, 48, 49?
Yeah.
You know, Triple H, I mean, and then again, we have guys who are in their 70s still wrestling and taking bumps. But we really don't know how much time Triple H has left. But I for one am really glad that NXT is a thing. Like you said, NXT has given us some of our biggest moments, some of our biggest stars in the business right now. Some of the best moments ever, some of the most, you know, gut-wrenching, fulfilling moments. If anybody watching now remembers back in the day, like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, that was the rivalry that got me into watching NXT full time.
Right.
Like I was watching takeovers and stuff like that, but then when he turned on Ciampa, or I'm sorry, when Ciampa turned on Johnny, like that really put me in a place where I'm like, yes, I have to see how this continues.
Right.
So that was really the thing that got me watching NXT. But yeah, you know, just again, a huge shout out to Triple H. You know, definitely have given us moments in our childhoods that are pretty irreplaceable. So again, he's a dream match of mine, and yeah, so it's really cool. 25 years.
25 years. Yeah, and I feel like a good way to kind of close this out. When it's all...
hold on, before you do that, did you see that ugly belt design that WWE Shop gave him
for Triple H?
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up, but I'm gonna finish it off with this. Name one of your favorite Triple H matches, and when it's all said and done, what will Triple H's legacy be?
One of my favorite Triple H matches. Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. So my favorite story leading into a Triple H match is actually the Seth Rollins Triple H story.
Yeah.
Love it to death. Favorite Triple H match would actually have to be the end of an era match at WrestleMania 28. I just rewatched that WrestleMania like last week.
Right.
That Hell in a Cell match, really, really, really good match. It's just, you know, it's what it is. What it is. It's the end of an era. I really do adore that match. So I will say that one, the end of an era.
the end of an era. I would definitely concur with you as far as like Hunter versus Taker in Hell in a Cell with Shawn as a guest referee was definitely my favorite Triple H match. When Triple H, as far as Triple H's legacy is concerned, when it's all said and done, he lived up to his name, which is the game. His whole moniker was that he wasn't a student of the game, that he was the game. He embodied pro wrestling, from paying his dues to being all that you can be inside the ring to him giving back to the industry by creating NXT. He is the evolution of the wrestling business incarnate. And he's the past, the present, and the future of the business. And like Hunter is just literally he's one of the greatest of all time, and he's just an incredible leader and creative mastermind. And I believe that he's going to be the future of WWE as it pertains to their talent and development. But we want to know what you guys think. What's your favorite Triple H match? What will his legacy be? Be sure to comment below. For the last time this season, well, only for the second time, we're going to be doing another version of What Wrestling You Watching? Okay, and this is going to be in a segment just simply where we're talking about watching and wrestling. So Angie, what have you been watching as it pertains to wrestling over the past week?
As far as I'm concerned, what am I watching? I actually was taking a bit of a break from watching wrestling, but yesterday, because I was watching Avengers Endgame, because it's been 1 year since the movie released, but I will be watching tonight. I will be starting with WrestleMania 19. And then I will really be trying to watch a WrestleMania a day until I can get to at least 24. Let's try to get to 24 by next week. Right. I know it'll probably won't happen. I'll probably watch 19 tonight, and then I won't watch 20 for another week and a half.
Right.
But yeah, I'm watching 19 tonight. So yeah, there's also a couple of other little pay-per-views that I want to watch, but I'll wait for that. It's fine. But that is what I'm watching, WrestleMania 19. What about you?
Right now, I just started the Best of NXT, and today specifically, I was watching the Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Championship. It was Adrian Neville versus Sami Zayn versus Tyson Kidd versus Tyler Breeze. First of all, that was Tyler Breeze's peak. And I wish that at that time in NXT they had the North American Championship because he would have held that belt perfectly.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm kind of watching right now is the Best in NXT. But we want to know what you guys are watching right now. And that is going to conclude our season finale of Culture 316, Season 2, Episode 22. Thank you guys so much for supporting this season. This is the season where we've seen the most growth as far as the quality of the product, as well as the viewership, as well as the quality of the content. And we are very, very excited. We will be back for season 3. Give us a couple months, but to kind of stay in the loop.
We'll just say soon.
Soon, yeah. Stay in the loop, though. We are going to be putting out content on our social media. So at Culture316 on Twitter, at Culture316 on Instagram. Thank you guys so much.
Now, kids, what did we learn this season? What you're supposed to do is go, oh yeah, we learned.
Oh yeah, we learned. We learned. Wash your damn hands. Wash your damn hands. And don't let this bird app get you smacked in 2020.
That's what we learned.
Don't
let social media get you smacked up. That was the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway from season 2. Season 1 was, what was it? It was in the summer. Is don't talk shit if you can't fight.
Right.
That was season 1. Season 2 is don't let social media get you smacked up. Season 3, I'm coming with a new one. Season 3 is going to become correct, so I don't have to correct you.
Period.
That's it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in for season 2. Once again, I'm Jay the Creative. That's Angelo Carter, and we'll see you guys in season 3 later.